This is the voice of the Mysterons.
Oh man, I didn't hear you come in. Oh, I'm just finishing this up in a little bit. Boy, you don't have to slam the door that hard, do you? Oh, I think there's some glass broken on the other side. Oh well, I'll get that later on. Well, I'm glad you came along anyhow. You can watch me what I'm doing here. This is all sketched out back in here, if you can see that, through this mylar. And I'm just adding a little bit of turquoise into this mix here. Let me finish this and I'll show you in a little bit what it looks like underneath. All right. Let's take a look at this, see what it looks Well, I don't want to take all day pulling this tape off, but you get an idea what it is just by looking at this. I bet you think it's an Auburn mount or a Duesenberg mount. It's a cord. It's a cord, and that's what I'm working on today. Let me finish this off and I'll get started painting in just a little bit. Alright, so now the next part will be masking off the whole background and a few other spots on the painting so that I can start spraying the colors of the sky, the colors of the reflection, the greenery, whatever would be reflected in the side of this black car. Alright, so now the next thing I'll be doing is just cutting out the whole perimeter of the painting, making sure that everything else is covered up and there's not any little cracks where some paint can seep through. But that's what I'm going to be doing now. Well, it's another day. I've had I'll grab a chair here, relax a little bit. Getting some cold weather outside. It's cold down here in the studio too, but it wouldn't be as cold as if I was out in the garage, that's for sure, so I'm thankful for that. But this is what I've been doing on this, and this is a cord, by the way. Last time you saw me, I was just finishing painting the blue. Of course, things were going wrong with the camera and didn't record the whole thing of spraying it, but you did catch me on the last couple of seconds of spraying the blue in the fender and on the hood. And you can see right in the center of it where the hood actually peaks up like this, that would be the darkest part of the sky. Same thing over here where it curves over, that's going to be the darkest part. And back in here where the hood comes down, and then this side is going to be the darkest part again. So those are the little bit of tricks that I see in the reflections of cars when I look at them, if they got a good paint job on them. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be masking all this off. The last thing you saw me was painting the blue, and I also added some blue in here, along here, the reflections in this area here. I'll have to run some tape along here where the chrome is, and then the next step is going to be painting the green. Now in the times past when I did my paintings in the early days, I used to paint all the reflections, the sky and everything in the car, and it kind of looked like this one, which was the Bugatti that I did for a friend up in Milwaukee. And I painted that at the Racine railroad station. But as you can see, it looks kind of like something maybe the Beatles would have had back in the day, and they would have taken one of the Rolls Royces and had it painted psychedelic like that. But basically all those colors that you're seeing in that is just the reflections that are in the background of the car. So I'm going to be painting that same way on this one, and it's going to be a black car. So I have to make it really transparent. and I have to really have a light touch on the black. I can't be going crazy with it. I have to paint the areas that I really feel where the black is going to be really black, and then different variations of black. Well, you'll see as I'm going along. But right now we have to get going on painting the variations of green. So let's get going on that. I've got to get a good X-Acto blade and start cutting it. Well, I'm working on this video. I got up at about 3:30 this morning, and I'm working on the green now, and I'll be putting the transparent black over top of it real soon. So you can watch me while I'm doing all the little tiny detail work. Well, I got the green all done. All the dark greens, all the yellow greens, they're all done. I put the yellow in for the reflection of the curve. There's going to be some lines going across over here. And I wanted to show you this. You know, I had a little problem with all my airbrushes. All my $100, $150 airbrushes, they all stopped working at once. And then I found this one, and this one is called a Peak airbrush. I have no idea who made the Peak airbrush. I think it was Bear Air. And back in the old days, there were only two places that you could buy airbrush supplies from, and that was Atlanta Airbrush, and about a year later a company called Bear Air came out. And Atlanta was, of course, it was in Atlanta, Georgia, and Bear Air, I believe, was in California, and that's where all the big airbrush guys were, down there doing t-shirts and doing things on cars and vans and stuff like that. So they started up a company down there, and one year they had somebody make them an airbrush that they could put their name on, and I think it might have been an Olympus or an Iwata airbrush, because it was a good quality one. And I bought that probably for about $39, which was kind of a lot of money back 25, 30 years ago. That's the only one that still works. It's amazing. And it's still doing a nice fine line too. So I'm really happy with that. So next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pulling out my big old tape here, because this area down in here will be reflecting sky. So I'm going to have to put this on there, put in where I'm going to have the sky. Also be reflected in here a little bit, so I'll have to cover this whole thing up. That's what I'm going to do now. Well, you just saw me do some white here. I just used Mylar instead of that tape. That was just a little, I couldn't see through it, but the Mylar, I was able to see through it okay. And it's kind of a loose fitting mat, so you kind of have to hold it down. Now it's time to put some of that blue in with the sky reflection. That looks good. Mylar works pretty good. Kind of flimsy, but it works pretty good. Just burnishing this down because I'm going to start pulling off all this masking here because it's time to put the black on. So here we go. This is the transparent black from Createx that I'm using. It's coming out really good. So the area that I'm going to be spraying, I got the blue still masked off here, but I've got everything else that's chrome masked except for this. This will actually be a body color, which will be black, but I'm got it blue so we can see that. So I'm just going to go over this now and maybe do some of the darker areas, like right down in here. Well, there you go. So far this airbrush is working really good. Still got paint in here too. And I only had a 3/4 of the way full and I did all this amazing. I'm going to have to thin this paint out a little bit. I can hear it sputtering. So I'll be back in just a little bit. Got to give this some time to dry and be back in probably about 10-15 minutes. Well, so far everything seems to be working pretty good here. The airbrush is working good, the compressors are working good. Compressor stopped working for a little while and I was freaking out. But then I saw there was a reset button on it, so I pushed that red button and it came right back on again. And that was right after I started bragging about how good that compressor was. I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't be bragging about stuff. Well, today's the big day. The big day. Today is the day I take off the back of this painting, so it'll reveal what the whole thing looks like. I have to pull the masking off the front part, which is basically the blue, and we'll have to take a look and see what happens. Come on in the studio. There's the painting. It's going to be interesting to see what's going on with this one. And pull off this back on here. Oh, I better close the door. It's getting cold. You know how cold it is down here? The water in my airbrush can is almost frozen. I had to break through Man, oh man. Keep forgetting about it. It's all ice cubes out there, you know, those icicles that are hanging down. Anyhow, come on, let's take a look at this. Well, I think it looks pretty good. But I have to remove all this masking on here. This is going to be a lot of fun. I hope nothing gets ruined in all this, but I think I'll just start from the top. Well, what do you think? What does it look like? Does it look pretty good? I sure like the way this sky is reflected in here now. There's probably going to be some areas in here yet that I'm going to have to pull masking off. There's a piece right here. But I don't want to bore you with all that. But as soon as I get all this stuff taken off, we'll take a better look at it, okay? Well, it's been a couple of weeks now since I started this painting, maybe 3 weeks. I've had a whole lot of fun doing it. I've really enjoyed doing this. Starting out like I used to do in the old days, working with the color that was underneath the original color, like yellow and green, like we saw earlier, and then putting the transparent black over top of that really brings out I'm just digging on this. It's almost like it's chrome, you know, that blue, it's beautiful. I'm really happy with it, but you know what we got to do now? We got to take all this masking off the back and see how it works with the background. It's like the big unveiling, huh? Well, that was pretty simple. I really like it. I really like it.